Why, hello there, friends and familiars. I hope this evening finds you well, and that you've managed to scrape up a little shelter to keep yourselves safe. My name is Mr. Nowhere, and if this is your first time coming across my voice, I'm gonna ask you to please hang on for just a moment while I get a little bit of business out of the way. If you're a regular listener, however, then please stand by for the current emotional weather report for the Windy City. With the construction season upon us, we're seeing bouts of anger cropping up all along the south side, with a particular concentration on the upper south side. Traffic jams can make for a particularly dense harvest, but if you can't make it during rush hour, don't you worry. There's a big ball game coming up this weekend, and win or lose, there will be plenty of wrath to go round. For those with a more refined palate, the funeral of Sergeant Jason Margrave will be held at St. Mary's this upcoming Friday. A somewhat controversial figure, it's likely there will be protesters and mourners in equal number. Additionally, the Taste of the City is coming up this weekend, and you will rarely find more desire than the first day of those stalls being set up. Just remember to come early. Their hunger is what slakes your thirst after all, and once the crowd is sated, you won't have anything left to fill your belly with. And for those of you who enjoy a little frightful spice, don't worry, I haven't forgotten about you. For those who know about the East End Bend, there have been reports, shall we say, of unsavory activity. While there's definitely a charge in the air that will set your hair on end and put a dreadful tingle on your tongue, be advised that too much fear tends to lead a population to take rash actions. This dish can cut both ways, so be sure you've got a sense for where the blade is before you bite down, or you're going to find your meal and your night ruined in particularly short order. Now then, with that little matter complete, I want to move on to the purpose of this evening's broadcast. I'd like to start with a heartfelt thank you to all the new listeners out there who have been waiting patiently for your turn. Because while everything I just said might make no sense to you right now, it just may by the time I sign off tonight. Because I'm here to break quite a number of rules and to ruffle a lot of feathers. But needs be when the devil drives, as the old saying goes, and entirely too many of you are in the dark when you could use a little lantern to light your way. I aim to be that lantern for you. So let me pull back the curtain and lead you backstage while I answer a question that's likely burning in many of your minds right at this very moment. Just what is Radio Free Fae? Now some of you sly cats and region rats know this tune already, but tonight is for the fresh fish swimming in our pond. So if you're new to these waters, listen close, because I ain't gonna chew my food twice. The world that you know is not the world that is. The stories your grandma told you before she tucked you in at night, the ones about witches in the deep woods, of things hiding under your bed, and about the strange folks who looked like people but weren't, who came calling in the darkness. Those tales about the others that lived out where the roads don't run and there are no streetlights to push back the darkness. Those weren't just old wives' tales. They were warnings. Instructions for how to avoid falling into the clutches of the things whose names we don't speak, lest we draw their attention. The good neighbors, the fair folk, the gentry. They have many titles, yes they do, but those of us who have met them face to face know that none of those words truly do them justice. These creatures are old things, cunning things, and if you let them speak, they'll weave a web of half-truths and wishes all around you until you'll follow them anywhere. And that is what happened to us. To the people like you, and to the people like me. Maybe you're one of the folks who opened your mouth and made a promise you didn't think you'd have to keep when the wrong set of ears was listening. Maybe you got black-bagged in the middle of the night and you woke up somewhere over the rainbow. Or perhaps you were lost and scared, and the sweet voice and the pretty face said you were safe as long as you came with them. You wanted to believe that, so you took their hand and walked right through the door of that gingerbread bungalow. We all made mistakes, friends, but not all of us lived to learn from them. Now, if one of those things took you to that place where they live, that place on the other side of the cracks in the world, then you didn't come back the same as you left. Maybe your breath steams in the heat and your blood runs ice cold. Maybe your voice rings like a choir bell, or your clever fingers can do things they really shouldn't be able to according to the laws of physics. You might be one of those people with a smile that can charm a miser out of his purse, or somebody who moves with all the noise and substance of a shadow on an empty night. You're not the same as you were, either inside or out. It's like those others took something from you, but we all know they can't steal, so they gave you a gift in exchange. They reached into that little hole in your soul and poured in magic until you overflowed. Then they told you to be grateful for it, because not everybody gets a chance to make this kind of devil's bargain. You're still you in a lot of the ways that matter, but you're also a little like them now. Or more than a little in some cases. You've got one foot in two worlds, but you're not really standing in either of them. You're a little Fae, capable of walking their roads and performing your own little miracles, because you signed on to the same contracts they made with reality. So you get to call on those old bargains for your own purposes. But you aren't as big as the others. You're a junior partner, your position underwritten by the gentry. You're a changeling, one of the lost. And when you got out of that other place, and you slammed the door behind you, a part of you knew you weren't really safe just because you got away. They took you once, after all, and they could do it again. So you started looking for somewhere to hole up. You started looking for people like yourself, other escapees, runaways, people who knew what it was like and who could help keep the hunting hounds away from your doorstep. Most of the time, anyway. And that is where you are most likely to meet members of a court. Because those others, those keepers, made us like them, and they gave us the power to make bargains, to form pledges and oaths that simply cannot be ignored. Courts are made up of cyclical concepts that we formed these pacts with. Concepts who empower and protect those of us who give our oaths to them. These courts have their own rules, their own culture, and their own way of doing things. Most particularly, however, a court is a vibe, a feeling, an emotion. It's something you have to have in your heart, and whatever you swear that oath to is going to know whether or not you've got the right stuff. Take the courts of the four seasons as an example. Spring brings on March Madness and a need to grow, to stretch, to run wild and forget. It is the embodiment of desire with a capital D. Summer pounds down on you like a hammer, relentless, raising your temperature and lowering your tolerance for absolutely everything. Summer is bright, red wrath, and anyone who's ever been really heated knows that feeling rather intimately. When the leaves start dying and that wind starts whistling, you see the days get shorter and the shadows growing longer. Autumn reminds you the world is a dark place, and it whispers that you should be very afraid of what lurks out past where your flickering sparklights can see. And winter. Winter is colder than an ice queen's tears, and just as sorrowful. But let's talk about sorrow for a moment, shall we? Sorrow is a child of pain. When we get our heart broken by the pretty thing we confessed our desire to, sorrow is the cup we drink from. When we lose someone, whether it's to the grave or to our own unkind words, sorrow is what settles in our empty stomachs. When we realize we are no longer the person we were, and that certain doors may now be closed to us, sorrow is what we shoot up with. Sorrow is a quiet emotion. It's a private thing that most of us want to keep to ourselves. Sorrow leads you to hide your real feelings and to never truly take your armor off. And this is why so many of us who have been to the other side, to that place beyond the stinking sea of changing green and the gates of that gilded hell called Arcadia, reach for sorrow. Because it has many lessons to teach us. Sorrow teaches you how to hold a false smile when everyone is trying to see into your soul. Sorrow teaches you how to make yourself small and how to hide away from something else that might hurt you. Sorrow also teaches you how to function when you're in pain, and it sharpens your eyes and ears. It teaches you how to hear a sweet nothing for what it is, and how to see through empty promises. And this is the role of winter among the other seasons. We are the eyes and ears of the freehold. When people need the word on the street, they come to us. When they need to go to ground, they come to us. And when they need somebody put on ice, they come to us. Allegedly, that is. Of course, when you take anything too far, it can become a problem. If you look into the shadows for monsters long enough, you're going to find them, whether or not they're really there. Paranoia tends to affect winter courtiers worse than others because so many of us play games of secrets and truths, and it can be tough to remember who you even are half the time. And that is why getting a straight answer out of someone in the silent arrow can feel like pulling teeth. Hiding and half-truths just come second nature to those who drink too deep from sorrow's spring. Which brings us to the actual topic of conversation and why so many of you came here in the first place. The dissemination of information has always been a crucial part of our survival as a community. And in the dark days where fire and iron were all we had, we slipped our secrets into stories and then sent those stories on their merry way. I can't say of a certain, but I'd be willing to bet a pledge and a promise there were more than a few members of the Winter Court going village to dale in the dead of the snowy season to tell tales in taverns and tall houses that were filled with warnings about the others and what you needed to do to stay out of their hands. Then as time went on, the printing press allowed broadsheets to be run off at record speed, and they were spread as fast as swift horses on secret trods could take them, ensuring that we could keep our communities abreast of any issues of import that affected all of the lost at large. Then the telegram came, and you could send a message over the wires, even across the ocean, delivering reports and warnings faster than anything short of actual magic could achieve. And then, dear listeners, oh, and then we came to the age of radio. A technological marvel that allowed people to gather round for fireside chats, to listen to the news of the day, or just catch up on the latest soap opera for an afternoon's entertainment. In 3 beats of an excited heart, these little devices were everywhere. You found them in your homes, in your car, down at the bar, and pretty soon you could carry one in your pocket so you could always tune in wherever you wanted to go. And while it didn't take long for the government to crack down on broadcasters, where there's a will, there's a way, as you all know very well. In the early days, we set up pirate radio stations to transmit local warnings to our fellow lost. Morning cant was still the order of the day, of course, and only those in the know could read between the bands to pick up what we were laying down and understand the real truth of what was contained in one of our broadcasts. This was the start of what we now refer to as Radio Free Fae, a way for certain members of the Winter Court to break the wall of silence we usually maintain and to get the word out to our brothers and sisters about what was coming their way. However, this system allowed us to choose what information we revealed and what we held back, which seemingly made it the best of both worlds. In the decades since we began, our setups have only gotten slicker. With obscure podcasts, anonymous video channels, and dark web audio logs, Radio Free Fae is now a hydra with many heads. Shut one signal down, and 2 more will take its place, broadcasting to an even wider populace. Of course, one person's meat is another person's poison. You see, loyal listeners, I'll be the first to admit there's a suspicion addiction among those in the Silent Arrow, even above and beyond what most of the lost have to cope with. And there's always going to be members of my court who want everyone to keep their lips locked, lest we let something slip that we shouldn't. The very idea that there's somebody sitting on a mic and airing out dirty laundry where anyone might hear it leaves them seething, and they try to shut down every DJ they can get their frigid little fingers around. However, duty to the community is a powerful force among the lost. Even those of us who'd rather close our doors and pretend we aren't home don't want to leave our friends and neighbors exposed to the horrors that come out of the shadows. And since it's just you and me here right now, loyal listeners, most of us wouldn't even leave our worst enemies out in that kind of cold. Because we all know that what goes around comes around, and we don't want to be on the other side of that door when we're wearing someone else's shoes. With that said, there are those who've expressed distrust of the stations and the DJs who man the microphones. After all, trust is a two-way street, and suddenly being given access to Winter's Whisper Stream can feel like a disinformation campaign to those who are using to have to pull a little harder to get any answers out of any of us. So it becomes impossible to tell whether getting bad information over the airwaves was an accident, or if it was deliberate sabotage on our part. And the real problem with that is, even those of us who man the stations can't always answer that question. The truth of the matter, friends and enemies, is that Radio Free Fae sits in the middle of an ongoing storm. Most of us who get on the mic and spin our stories do so because we believe that you are all entitled to the information we have to share. Some of us make mistakes, and when we do, it can cost our listeners their lives, or even worse, their freedom. Some of us give out disinformation on purpose as a way to run interference, and an even smaller number may do it to poison the well and to tarnish all of our credibility. There's people all across the courts who want us to shut down, each for their own reasons, and there's others who fight for us to remain as an institution because when something goes wrong, you need a way to reach everyone as fast as possible to tell them it's time to seek shelter, keep quiet, and to hide from what's about to rise up out of the holes in the world that will be searching with greedy eyes and grasping fingers for all the ones who got away. This officially concludes tonight's broadcast. My hope is that you learned something this evening, but I'd like to take a moment to remind you that a little knowledge can be a dangerous thing. Until next time, never trust the charity of strangers, don't reply to whispers from dark alleys, and never, ever give your name to somebody just because they asked you for it. We have just a little bit of light left before I go dark, and I wanted to take a moment to let you all know that this won't be the last broadcast you hear from this station. Though we're still in production for the first season of Windy City Shadows, I'll be here offering my insights on various matters involving my fellow changelings and the beautifully mad world we all live in. So watch this space, and if you made it to the secret outro, scroll down to the comments and type the phrase, "It's cold in the Windy City, friend." Then once you've done that, make sure you open the letter that arrives in the next 3 to 5 sunrises. It will be sealed with red wax and delivered by a man with no face. Wish him a good morning and look away so you can't see where he goes after he puts that parchment in your hands. Trust me, friends, you don't want to see this. It'll give you nightmares. Until next time, this is Mr. Nowhere, signing off.